Erev Shabbat Shalom Rabotai. We are continuing with our Mishna Yomi Masechet Sukkah. We are up to Perek Daled Mishnah Vav. Today's Mishnayot should be Leilun Nishmat Neria ben Svetlana Aranbayev and Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelov Menuchatam Began Eden Amen Leavdil ben Chaim L'Chaim for the Refuah Shlema Bacha Bat Esther and Daniel Shalom ben Rosa Betoch Shah Cholei Israel. This Mishnah explains how the Aravah ceremony was performed on Shabbat. The Aravah ceremony of the 7th day was performed even on Shabbat as taught in Mishnah 4. The Mishnah begins, K'ma'aseu b'chol kach ma'aseu b'Shabbat. Just as it was performed on a weekday, so is it performed on Shabbat. Ela shayu melaktin otan me'erev Shabbat, except that on Shabbat they would gather the Aravot and bring them to the temple before Shabbat because it is forbidden to carry them in a public domain on Shabbat, umanichim otan begigiyot shel zahav kedei shelo yichmoshu, and they placed them in golden barrels filled with water so that they would not wilt overnight. Rather, they would remain fresh and beautiful for the mitzvah the next day. Now, contrary to everything we have learned in the last few Mishnayot, the next Tana holds that there was no Aravah ceremony at all. Rather, on each day of Sukkot, a ritual that involved palm branches was performed. Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka says, Hariyot shel dekel hayu mevi'in, they would bring hardened palm branches to the temple. Now the word hariyot, in contrast to lulavim, refers to palm branches that were left on the tree until their spines hardened like wood and their leaves spread out and stiffened. According to Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, the Torah uses the plural form kapot temarim, branches of the palm, to indicate that two branches are taken, one for the mitzvah of the 4 species and one for the ritual described here. As the Mishnah continues, Vechovtin otan b'karka b'tzidei hamizbeach, they beat them on the ground at the sides of the altar. Ve'oto yom nikra yom chibut hariyot, and that day, every day of Sukkot, because this ritual was performed every day, was called the day of the beating of the branches. And the Rav does tell us, V'enanechak Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, the Rav does not follow the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. That is in the Mishnah Vav. Mishnah Zayin now mentions a custom that was observed after the people left the temple on the last day of Sukkot. The Mishnah begins, Miyad hatinokot shomtin et lulvehen ve'ochlin et rogehen. The adults would grab the children's lulavim from the hands of the children and eat the children's etrogim. Now this was not considered stealing because the sages permitted this custom for the sake of enhancing the joy of the mitzvah, and they have the power to declare a person's property ownerless. Now the adults were allowed to eat only the etrogim of children and not the etrogim of other adults. An adult's etrog is forbidden because it was set aside to be used for the mitzvah and may not be used for anything else. This is a form of muktzah that applies even on Chol Moed. Even after the mitzvah has been performed, it remains forbidden in light of the rule stating that whatever was muktzah at the beginning of a day remains muktzah for the entire day. The etrog of a child, by contrast, is permitted because it was set aside only for the purpose of training the child chinuch and not for a real mitzvah. And that is the Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Everybody should have an Erev Shabbat Shalom. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.